So last year, saying, right, because it was school, we had a big voting thing. There we go. And Say's group came in second. After they were all done, a few of the kids on the other directions the kid go, came back second. So, easier and cleaner to walk.
Yeah.
So Joelle actually. That's just crazy. Right, it's really. Well, yeah, it's going to require us, but it also sounds like the drain it goes the other direction. So, it's fun.
Part of what it's not this.
All right. So now we should try doing orchestra for this one. But it's connected up.
We have two people, so it's a crowd.
601. It's a crowd.
So, are you gonna be able to hear me? Is this your feed? Can we get it any closer? Well, it's not gonna be a lot closer, but.
Move the audience over there.
Maybe it picks me up a little bit better.
Yeah, that's probably good.
Yeah, I'd rather try to have decent sound, maybe more people and try to pay attention to it.
No, it's fine.
All right, oh, sorry. Do we have anybody in the live stream?
Brandon, one. Great.
Okay.
Ready?
All right. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So thank the two of you for being here, and thank you for the person that's watching the live stream. We're also recording this. So if there are other people in the community that are interested. So I'm Marty Lexman, I serve as the superintendent for the West Dallas West Milwaukee School District. And we're doing a presentation and some discussion about a proposal from Recreation and Community Services to lease the Lane building and create a new or a second Recreation and Community Services Center that would include a fitness center for the community. So it's kind of an interesting opportunity and idea. I'm going to do a little context setting on the other people in the room. So Shelley Strasser is here. She's our Director of Recreation and Community Services. So she'll do a bit more of the detail of the idea and the vision for this. Aaron Norris is here, our Director of Facilities and Finance and Operations. So he's going to talk about the finance side of this. So I'm just going to do the kind of introduction and turn it over to the two of them. Deidre Raver is our Assistant Superintendent. Dr. Amanda Stewart is our Director of Communication and Community Relations. Steve Eichmann is our Manager of Facilities. So it's the people in the room to help answer any questions that you may have. I have the clicker. So with that, a little bit of setting context. So even though the idea for recreation to lease Lane seems like maybe it is coming very quickly kind of into the public conversation with the board, and the board will be making a decision about whether or not this moves forward this year in the next few days, actually on Monday, because this needs to be decided in the final budget for this school year and budgets going forward. But it really is built inside of a long-range, our strategic plan. So the board has a 5-year strategic plan. We're kind of in the middle of the second iteration of it. and that included a facility master plan. And so that was developed, that was one of the big goals that was accomplished. The facility master plan called for the reduction of the number of schools we operate, right? So with declining enrollment and the cost of continuing to operate older schools, part of the plan was to reduce the number of schools, and this year, it will be the last year for Lane Intermediate as a school, for Longfellow and Madison. So we're consolidating those schools. The board has committed to the facility master plan to revisit additional consolidations, because we still, even with these three, have more space than we need for the number of kids we serve, which then starts to beg the question, well, what do you do with the buildings you're no longer using, right? So that's really where the idea starts to come from. This particular facility lends itself well to a number of ideas for recreation and athletics. So another goal in the strategic plan was really to increase participation, especially in secondary schools, so intermediate and high school, in clubs, activities, extracurriculars, theater, sports. And part of this facility, with the brand new gym on that, and they're relatively brand new, it's one of the better gyms that we have. So it's a regulation size basketball, it's fully air conditioned, so it gets a lot of use. And Shelley will talk about that, is why that's important for us to maintain as part of our property. So it's embedded in the strategic plan. This is also about alignment of just kind of opportunities and our actions. So the way school finance works in the state of Wisconsin actually opens an opportunity right now for us to consider this without us having to go to referendum, without us having to increase taxes. In the overall picture here that Aaron will explain, the mill rate actually goes down, even though we're investing more in recreation in this building. And that really comes after years of really careful fiscal management. And part of the reputation in the community is still that, you know, we have financial struggles. We don't, not at all. We had pretty significant financial struggles, and those were not fun things to work through and to lead through. But we are probably now one of the best financially positioned school districts in the state. You'll hear headlines in the coming days and weeks and months about fiscal cliffs, about structural deficits. We don't have any of that projected in our future because we've been forced, because of the challenges, to manage differently. And so it positions us well to consider this kind of opportunity. When Lane was first proposed as a consolidation, recreation started imagining, well, what if we had a second site? What could we do with it? We also moved youth sports and youth theater to recreation to start to address more participation. And this is also the opportunity to connect schools and community in different ways. Recreation is an arm of the school district, but it has a different reach than the schools. And so this is really about taking some steps to pursue a long-term vision, but with some pretty specific concrete steps today and hopefully Monday when the board considers this. So the proposal to the school board, and then I'm going to turn it over to Shelley, is really that Recreation Community Services will lease Lane Intermediate School. So the board is actually the entity that owns all of the schools. So the lease for the services of rec, because the board is still the owner. If we create the West Side Recreation and a fitness center, and part of the vision is then we would offer a complimentary membership to the fitness center for employees. And if you hear about the challenges of recruiting and retaining teachers, this is one more benefit we can offer that makes us a little bit different than our neighbors. I mentioned the high quality gym space, creating a fitness space, and then adding green and play space is really the big vision. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Shelley, to go into a little more detail.
All right, thank you, Dr. Lexman. So when the district made the decision to purchase Lane, our department was extremely excited because even at that time, we had outgrown a lot of the space we were using currently with the existing elementaries, intermediates, and pretty much we aren't in the high schools at all. So we were able to expand our programs, and if you take a peek in the gym, you'll see one of them going on this evening, our fitness line dance. So it's been really added value to our program offerings. So losing this space puts us kind of right back to where we were in the beginning. Where do we go with the programs and classes? And one of the things that we know at the end of every season, we do a participant satisfaction survey. And every time it comes to, people like to go to classes and programs in their neighborhood. We were just having this conversation a little bit earlier that West Dallas is probably a big small town or a small big town, however you want to look at it, but people are like, oh, I have to go all the way to the east, or people on the east, oh, I got to get all the way out there. But there is a lot to be said about building community within your neighborhood and having access near where you live and work. So this would create a west side. As you know, we have the recreation center, which technically considered on the east side. We've already outgrowing that. We have a preschool program there that's currently full. Our fitness classes are pretty much in any space we can get them in there. And we've already kind of pretty much maxed out. We also run an adult day program that is really grown this past year, not only in terms of participants, but the number of things they want to do. And they're already asking me for additional space. So it's just been some challenges already, which is a good problem for us to have. So what's going on currently here at Lane? We have 10 different unique programs. There's a variety of different programs. Dr. Lexman mentioned earlier youth sports. There is our recreation youth sports, but then we also have our junior feeder programs for the high schools. They have been able to practice here. And when we look at growing our programs, it's been kind of one of the challenges leading up to the high school. We want to get kids interested and active young and want to keep them engaged all the way through high school, but it is a challenge, especially for our high schools. They both, Central and Hale, compete in pretty tough conferences. And when our kids are practicing in gyms with tile floors at elementary schools that maybe have 2 functioning baskets, that creates some challenges, and especially when you look at what our opportunities are out there in other communities. Last year, we had over 11,000 number of individual uses, and when you look at the average, that's an average of 31 people using this facility per day per year. But that's in a very short window of time, right? Because we're not looking at school day hours. Now, if we had this facility, like we do the rec center pretty much, 7 a.m. till about 8, 9 p.m. at night, and then Saturdays and Sundays, that usage would expand. So the proposal we put forward to the board within the first year is each year we would pay a lease to the district, and then the additional funding would go towards kind of added amenities. Within our first year, our plan would be to tear down the original section of the building. The space is not really functional for what we would need for it. The number of capital improvement projects that it requires are well beyond our scope, so that's kind of when we first started looking at it and looking at some of that, we sort of backed off. But then as we kind of looked at things more and what could we possibly do, this became a more and more attractive West End location for us. So we would also look to ensure that the new section is sealed up and that the heating and ventilation and cooling and everything is good to go in that new section. Within the second year, we looked to renovate the office area. Now these are very preliminary plans. This is sort of like just putting ideas down on paper. Even as this has evolved, it's like, oh, what if we did that? Wait, what if we did that? Could we do this? So there's still a lot of ideas that we're working on there. But we'd like to put in a fitness center. Within the third phase, we'd like to include an inclusive, like, destination play space, not just playground equipment, but a place where grandparents can go and interact. Those with all different abilities can go and interact and play and have space to be physically active. And then within possibly the third and or fourth year, looking at just other opportunities out there, and I'll get into those a little bit more, but we've had a lot of demand for culinary arts centers, people that run kind of businesses out of their home that deal with foods and cooking, maker spaces. We would love to have a warm water pool. The opportunities there are endless, and I'll talk a little bit more about what that would look like. So what would be the benefits of all of this, right? Benefits is we would have more equitable access to facilities for families. Somewhere on the east, somewhere on the west. We'd be able to offer more opportunities, as I mentioned. Even through the daytime now at the rec center, we're pretty much maxed out. we'd be supporting health and wellness. We're currently working as a partner with the health department and looking at what does that look like for us as a community as a whole. We'd have space for community groups. Something that's really taken off in the city is our neighborhood groups. They're always looking for places to meet, spaces to hold events. This could be one of those places for them. Another huge benefit, just like the new rec center we have, there's no additional costs. There's no new costs to taxpayers, right? There is a cost, and it's including taxes, but there is no increase. And it adds value to our community. One thing we noticed with our current rec center is a lot of the realtors in the area are using it as a selling point to attract new families and new people to the community. Like we've literally seen it on their listings. They'll reference the rec center. So community fitness center, Dr. Lexman referenced this earlier. It would not just be for staff, but also the community. There's also a number of districts that currently have them. Greenfield, South Milwaukee, and then this one is in Shorewood, are just some examples. And have all done it successfully with having both students use it, staff use it, community members use it. It's all a matter of scheduling and things like that. But that would be a huge benefit. When you look at a number of the facilities that are in our area, they're really cost prohibitive to our families. So this would be something that would be more realistic in a cost value for families in our community. Athletic opportunities. We are in our, oh boy, I don't want to be quoted on this, but like 35th to somewhere in the 40th year range of doing an alumni tournament. And if you've never been to it, I would encourage people to go. It is just a very cool experience when people come back from high school, be it West Milwaukee, Hale, Central. We're now even starting to get some of our Docky kids involved in playing. They come back and play basketball for a night or two, and it's like the social event of the season for guys, I'll just say. You don't have to have played on your high school team. A lot of the guys that come back and play don't. But formally, that was at Central. As we referenced, we're really trying to expand our opportunities in high school. Now our high schools host tournaments. It's always around the holiday time of year. So we've had to relocate. This has been our new home, and they've loved it. It's an alternate site for high schools. I just today scheduled 4 practices here this year for boys basketball team in Hale because they can't use their own gym due to gymnastics meets, elections, a number of different things. So it'll serve as an alternate site as needed for high school athletics. As I mentioned earlier, it's a practice site for our junior programs. Our youth volleyball program, we are finally starting to see some participation from boys where we previously really didn't have any interest, and they're really starting to get involved. We're partnering with a club team to really beef up our instruction and coaching and supporting our coaches, and that program's growing, so we need a location for them. And it's just increased gym access. Our open gyms have been at the rec center a huge success, whether it's for youth. If you haven't been following, pickleball is like all the rage and craze, and they can't get enough of indoor gym time when the weather gets bad, which we know does here in Wisconsin. So it just create more opportunities for just open drop-in. In the world of recreation, that's something we're finding. People don't want to commit. I don't want to sign up for 8 weeks or 10 weeks, but I can show up whenever. That serves that purpose for them. I talked about the inclusive playground, so what does that look like? There's specific design elements, so it's not just, let's find some really cool playground equipment and put it in. There's elements that includes, so there's things for those visually, just all the different senses that playgrounds can cover. The interaction, there's risks for those that are real high risk takers and those that may be lower risk takers. It's just a real interactive space that all can play and interact with each other. So that would be something we'd look, and you really don't have anything like that in this area. Culinary classes and opportunities for groups to rent out. We get birthday party requests, who want to use kitchen spaces to make things and cook things, but we also get a lot of people, the kitchens we have at the rec center, it's not a commercial licensed kitchen. So it doesn't really serve that. We would look to beef this one up a little bit more so people could rent it out or rent out spaces, to just like prep things. And then our big dream is a warm water pool, which would really increase offerings for families, for seniors, for therapeutic rec and adaptive, parent-child classes. That's one of the largest, and I hate to say it's a complaint because the water is where the water needs to be, but based on air temperature and things like that, it's pretty cold for some of our littles in our parent-child classes. So this would provide that warmer water opportunity. It's also a space we can program throughout the day. And we also look to partner with other organizations in terms of, renting it out for therapeutic reasons. And I'll turn it over to Aaron.
Thank you. I'm Aaron Norris, as Dr. Lux mentioned, the Director of Finance Operations. So I wanted to talk a little bit this evening about kind of the finances and kind of an overview of kind of how school finance works, but also how this would impact kind of our total levy. So just kind of jump in. So the first thing is all school districts start with the revenue limit authority, and that was certified last Friday. And so essentially that is going to be the total amount of money received by a member of your school district. So both non-resident students, or all the students who live in West Dallas, either attending our schools or attending other public schools through open enrollments. They subtract out equalization aid given by the states to your school district based on how property rich, property poor you are, and that equals your total allowable revenue limit to the tax levy. So then that tax levy, the total amount the school district can levy from the community, is divided by equalized property value, and that number is multiplied by 1,000 to establish a mill rate. And so the big thing that happened is, everyone in the world's aware, is that property values throughout the whole country have increased. So our mill rate and our levy have both decreased, but our equalized property value has substantially increased. So that denominator allows the mill rate to, essentially what allows the multiplier on equalized property value is the mill rate, which allows property values to the community, to the taxpayers, to increase as well. So what does this look like in terms of Shelly proposal? So, and as Dr. Luxman mentioned, we're committed to decreasing both the mill rate and the levy, meaning that this would come at no additional cost to the property tax payers. So a Fund 80 increase this year of $1.3 million to fund the lane project this year. What that would do to the total levy to the community would be just over $40.1 million, which is a decrease from 21-22 to 22-23. The mill rate would be set at, using that levy, would be set at $6.58 per $1,000 of equalized value, which represents a 12.89% decrease from last year this year. And then the total Fund 80 levy would be at $4.3 million, which would be an increase from the previous year. This is a kind of a historical chart of what the mill rate has been through the West Dallas, West Milwaukee School District dating back to 2010, 2011. So you can see, even with the increase to the levy for Fund 80, this is the lowest the mill rate has been really ever. And so that's really great news, given that we can have a project of this magnitude and this size for the community and also be able to do it with no additional dollars. This chart kind of gives you a kind of a historical analysis as well, which gives you the mill rate showing again the 658 is the lowest that it's ever been, the percent decrease, the total levy showing the decrease each year in the total levy to the community, the percent decrease. This is a chart that shows equalized property value, kind of mentioned that before. Equalized property value has increased from last year to this year about 14.8%. State average is around 15%. So that's important because this, going back, jump back here, school districts that receive more aid, essentially the more money you receive in aid, the less burden that is in the community. And so when equalized property value increases for a community, but doesn't increase as much as the state average, you would expect to get more aid the following year. And so that's important as we get into the following school year, is that even with this additional levy, the projection as of now is that the community's levy would decrease, the total levy to the community would decrease in 2024 again, given that statistic for the state. This is kind of a historical analysis of the community, the Fund 80 levy over the past 5 years. So you can see the levy has really remained consistent, dating back to 2017-18 with the increase in 22-23 for the lane project. And so just to kind of summarize a bit some of the benefits that both Shelley had mentioned and as well as Dr. Waxman is that this is really a cost-effective way to obtain a building. Shelley had mentioned a lot of reasons why this is very helpful in terms of both youth sports, community service projects, youth theater, recreation. Really, the big thing to me though is for us to sell this property with needing gym space, for us to sell this and buy land and rebuild, it would cost 10 times as much to do that. And so this is really, to me, a very cost-effective way for us to have a space we already own and to be able to use it in a different way to serve our community's needs. The building needs improvements. We've kind of established that through the facility master plan, and so this is yet another way to address the needs of the building in a way that meets the needs of the community, because we don't need this space in terms of the school building anymore, and that's, we know that, and so, but there's other things our community does need, and so this is a great way to do that. Provides a service to our community that meets programming needs, and really aligns with our long-range facility master plan. It can be accomplished all while reducing our total levy and total mill rate. So I think it's a lot of wins. So that's it.
So that's the formal part of the presentations. We're available to answer questions. Brandon, I don't know if there's a way to, is there a way to do that on this? Or is it only one way?
They have the form, so I can keep
Okay.
an eye on the Google form.
Fine.
Yep.
Okay. So, or if any of you have questions, you want to ask if you're thinking about, so thoughts, questions?
Do you ever get revenue from outside groups that want to rent or tournaments or other things like that? Or is that just a matter of scheduling?
Yeah, so we do. Our department oversees facility rentals district-wide. And it depends, if they rent in a school building, that fund goes back to the Fund 10, which is school districts, those that are currently renting. And just, we opened the new rec center during the pandemic. So now that we've kind of been 2 years in operations, we're seeing more and more requests for rentals. But it's a delicate balance. We don't want to rent space that we need for community use, so there's a priority order, but we do generate revenue through rentals.
One of the things kind of in line with that question a bit is that, one of the opportunities I think we have is that given the ability to use the dollars while decreasing taxes and the mill rate, is that this project won't go on forever, right? And so over time, as the project comes to completion, we're able to decrease or drop that levy to continue to allow taxes to decrease, even if equalized property value were to somehow increase, even though it never has. It allows the school board the ability to manage that differently on behalf of the community. So I think it's, along with, kind of in line with the revenue piece, things like that, it's a way to do that, I think, so.
So then, question for ongoing facility maintenance, school district 10 owns the building, right? Fund 10 owns the building. Leasing it, does the maintenance still remain here on what's left of the building?
No, the maintenance, utilities, all that would be
Transferred to 80.
transferred to 80. The only thing we'd maintain would be carrying the insurance, similar to if you own a rental property, you have the insurance, things like that. So minimal costs, but yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, another piece I think is important, just for clarity's sake. So we did a big mailer out to the community, so we were hoping there would be like lots of people here. But in the mailer, we projected that with this project, the mill rate would be $6.44, and it would be a $2 million increase to the levy. And one of the most, I think, fascinating and frustrating things of managing school finances in the state of Wisconsin is you don't get your actual final budget numbers until mid-October.
Last Friday.
So last Friday,
Yeah.
so we're think about running a business, we're 1 quarter into our fiscal year. And our budget isn't final until now, and not Monday when the board actually approves it. So we did the best we could to project the final numbers, and it's actually you know, less of a levy going into recreation than we had originally planned for. But the final number comes out to be $6.58 for the mill rate, and that's just the way school finance works. We did the best we could with the projection. But I think it's important to point that out, just so we're really kind of clear and transparent about the dynamics of it all. The other piece I think is important for us to consider, we'll talk about it with the board on Monday, and Aaron kind of leaned into it. If we had to replicate just that newest part of this building where the good gym is and those office spaces, that would be far more expensive than what we're proposing. And to sell the entire building, because we've done the valuations, Steve did that whole project. A used school of this size and in this condition is worth somewhere between $2 and $3 million. That's it. And it was shocking to me. You know, I'm not in the business of selling schools, so I. But just that section would be, that's, you know, $15 million, $20 million project. If you think of what we built over at the rec center, that was almost $9 million, right? And that wasn't nearly the size of what's there. So in the end, it makes sense for us to preserve that portion of this facility and turn it into a community asset. Awesome. Anything coming on?
Nope.
Okay. So if there's no other questions, there's no reason to keep you sitting here. If you have your questions answered. But again, thank you for coming to spend the time. No, I appreciate it. The fact that we had somebody online, thank you. And then we'll make sure that this gets posted so anybody else or somebody's asking you, oh, what did you learn? You can also direct them over to the recording of this. That'll be up on the website right away. Oh, great. Thank you. Thank you both.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.